everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be interviewing and talking about and having a conversation with, in my opinion, the industry leader when it comes to hair and makeup. Crystal Vasquez is with me today. So she's been in the industry for a very long time with the level of experience that you don't see with a lot of other professional vendors that are in the area doing what they do. So we're going to pick her brain about what the industry, where it's come from, where it's gone to, where you think it's going to. I want to talk to you about trends and things like that. Yeah. So first of all, we're going to talk about later on how people can find you, but it's Crystal Vasquez and Company.
Yes.
And is that what it's going to be on Instagram also? Perfect. And all of the information that we talk about here is all going to be in the description down below. So welcome to the channel. We've met many years ago and done a lot of weddings together. And one of the things that I know, and I feel like you do this on purpose, is when a bride is sitting down with you, you know the vendors that are coming in.
Yes.
You sit down with them and say, you know how this person photographs, so you know how to kind of adjust the makeup a little bit to make it fit the style of the photographer that's coming in. 20 years?
20 years.
20 years. To me, that's crazy in itself.
Yes.
That's crazy in itself. So how did you get into hair and makeup?
Well, I was in the medical field. And at the time I was a single mom, and somebody told me that if I sold Mary Kay on the side while I was in school, I would become rich and I would get the Cadillac and the free car and make it as a single mom. And that sounded amazing. I quickly learned that I was not a salesperson. Right?
Oh, really?
Not a salesperson, did not get a Cadillac, did not become rich, finished medical school, and I ended up working overnights in the hospital. I would go from working overnights to then working friends' weddings, and eventually I remarried and we started to have more children, and something had to give. I'm pretty sure when my husband said that, he thought that I would give up the makeup aspects because I had a lot of student loans, and I ended up giving up the medical dream and becoming a full-time makeup artist.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you started off in a roundabout way, didn't quite set out that way, just kind of grew into that.
Yeah.
How did you get from deciding you're going to quit the medical field and go into the hair and makeup? Now we're looking at 20 years ago. Things are not like they are now.
No.
How did you transition into doing that? It obviously wasn't an overnight thing. How did you market yourself? How did you go about that? So let's talk about the journey from, okay, I'm giving up this, I'm going into this. What happened?
Lisa Powers. You know, I have to say that I don't think I really would have made it if it weren't for the community of vendors who were very open to having styled shoots and calling me on and putting that faith in me. You know, nowadays we market, everyone just goes on social media and that's how they market. But you get stale. People want to know you as a person, and although we're learning you have to do that on social media, it's important that you do that FaceTime too. So I think I was very lucky to still be, you know, in the wedding industry at a point in time where it was all FaceTime. It was all working with each other in person. Yeah. And so I will always say I didn't make it on my own. I made it because of the vendors who were already established, who were very opening to letting me come in and work with them. And it just kind of...
So it was basically community-based.
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to ask you a question that was 20 years ago.
Yes.
I feel like that community base is just as important now as it was then. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
I feel like social media is one thing. It's a pro-con aspect, benefits to it and just not a lot of benefits to it. I feel like community-based should be the foundation of every business. That way there you don't become a lone ranger in there, first of all, trying to do it on your own. Second of all, wondering why you're failed because you're doing it on your own.
Yes.
So let's talk about the community in that sense for just a minute.
Yeah.
How did you feel like, I know that it benefited you, but I feel like you're still part of that community even to this day. How has that benefited you being part of the community?
I'm still on everybody's recommendation list.
Yeah.
And it's because I still show up. I'm very old school loyal.
Yeah.
So it's all about loyalty to me.
I agree. 100%.
And I will 100% always show up for the people who showed up for me.
Yeah.
And I think, social media, the way that you see the feeds and stuff, you're not seeing what everybody's posting. So you don't know if they're still active in the community.
Good point.
When you get out there with your legs in your face and, then they know that you're still active, and there might be a need that, they hear of, somebody needs makeup, and, I just saw Crystal last week and I'm fresh on the mind, so they're going to throw my name out.
I feel, and I cannot emphasize that you are so right.
Yeah.
People now, I understand being an introvert completely.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely. But if you want to succeed in a business, like a in-person business that you do, you're physically putting makeup on a person's face. There's a personality that, somebody that can be an introvert, but somehow you have to get out of that.
You do.
In order to get in front of the people that you want to meet and network with and be a part of a community with. And I feel like you're going to struggle if your introversy gets in the way.
Right.
So somehow that has to be put on the back burner and saying, you have to get out of your comfort zone to be part of the community, because this is where the networking happens.
Absolutely.
This is where the industry is. This is where people are going to. As a lone ranger, you won't get word of mouth referrals.
Right. You'll get happy brides.
Yeah.
But I mean, even so, happy brides will talk about you to maybe one or two of your
Great point.
Of your friends. It's
Great point.
It's not a big enough net that you think you're casting.
Good.
And I think it's important, I work it into my work week. I give, my job gets X amount of hours from me, and some of those hours, if it's a slower day and I don't have hands-on hours, then I will find a local event. Facebook is great for that. And I will attend, and I will make sure to get at least 2 to 5 hours of real in-person time a week.
Establish the community part of that. A bride gets the word of mouth referral, or some way hears about you in social media in any way. When they first reach out to you, what is your process of reaching back out to them? Because we talked earlier about vibe and personality.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you first respond to those people coming in? Because you don't know their personality, you don't know their vibe, you don't know anything.
Right.
How do you get to know them enough to see if you'll be a good fit, and for your team and for your company that you do, the right hair and makeup person that goes with them? So let's talk about how the initial response comes in from there.
So I, in my email, I will automatically send them my rates, because that's the number one way of eliminating somebody who may not be my fit, right? Once in my rate sheet, I actually have a little bio about me.
Nice.
And I talk about what my style of makeup is. I am
so not just here's my pricing, it's a little bit about you, then pricing. That's a good idea. A makeup artist has, many different roles, but we are seeing a person, we're setting them up for their wedding day. And we want to make sure that our energy matches the energy in the room. I'm not a quiet person. I would love to be one day. But I'm excited. I feel like my brides, that's my playtime. I don't, when I'm home, I'm home. I don't really get out much. So when I'm with my brides, I want to feel like I'm with my friends, for their ease and for mine. I do my best work when I'm comfortable. Yeah. And you're always playing music when you guys are doing your hair and makeup also.
Sometimes, sometimes. And sometimes the music's not it, so then I have to overcompensate.
Yeah.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but Endless Love should not be on a morning of playlist. Save it for the wedding if you must, but you need a better vibe. But so I just make sure that they know my personality, and see if I'm a good fit there. Tell them what my strengths are with makeup artistry. I'm not a full glam makeup artist. I can do it. it's not my specialty.
Explain that to me, because I don't know the difference between full glam.
So full glam is definitely more of the Kardashian vibe, the wings, the sharp wings, the sharp lines in the cheeks.
Okay.
I am more of a soft glam and a natural makeup artist. I do a lot of politicians. I do a lot of professional male athletes where you have to focus on the clean makeup. And so I'm able to bring that into my brides who don't wear anything and don't want to feel like
or
they're
scared to wear anything.
There's a lot of fear.
There is a lot. I have a lot of brides saying, oh my God.
Yes, there's a lot of fear. Yeah.
Yes.
And with the nerves, the day of the morning, sometimes we'll take it out on hair or makeup. We'll do exactly the same thing that we did at the preview, but because they're scared.
Yeah. Do you do previews and trials ahead of time?
Yes.
So they know and feel, and then you figure out, okay, good. And a lot of times do you feel like they do that like just before their engagement session? So they got like a win-win to two,
So
sometimes?
we do that separate. I feel like because there's an element of surprise you're not, so I feel like the engagement session is a good way for us. I mean, the more that I work with a person, the closer we become for the wedding day, right? So the preview, I try to do like 3 to 4 months before the wedding.
Okay.
There's too many ideas out there. Back when I got married, we had magazines and we made a binder. Yep. Now there's Pinterest and Instagram and YouTube. And so things are always changing. Ideas are always changing. So 3 to 4 months beforehand, they've gotten all of their jewelry. They've made they've zoned in on a lot of their final decisions. So that's when the hair and makeup preview is really more successful.
That makes complete sense. And thank you for explaining the difference between full glam and a little bit more of a cleaner, softer look. And you tell them right off the bat, you don't do that.
Right. I can, but it's not my specialty.
Yeah.
And I know I will recommend, if they are looking for full glam, I will recommend a full glam makeup artist who's fantastic.
Perfect. So let's talk about the hair part side of your business. A client comes into you, they like you and they like your vibe and you're a good fit for them. They want to hire you for makeup. Now what do you do for hair?
So we used to just book everything through me, and over the past couple of years where I'm seeing more of a stress needed for making sure a person fits with your vision for your hair, etc., I will reach out to the girls that have worked under me for years, see who's available, and then I will introduce them. I'll start an email introducing them to the bride. That will give the bride an opportunity to pick somebody whose style fits theirs and who feels comfortable with the communication.
Yeah. So they have the opportunity and the choice, which is what you just said. They could like you for your makeup part that you do. And if there is another company that just says, here's my hair person that does not have the same vibe as you, it could be like they like working with you, but they weren't so happy about this. You give them the options of other hair people that best fits their vibe. I feel like that's very important. I feel like that must make the bride feel better. First of all, that she has a choice and she gets to choose which ones she feels is the best fit for her.
Absolutely.
I like that. All right. Let's talk about the most memorable story that you've had that you can think of in your 20 years of experience, your best experience of not necessarily wedding day, like a wedding itself, because you've worked with them 3 months before the wedding, you got to know them. It's like, this bride was really cool. Is there any story that you could tell me about that has like a lasting impression in your memory?
Well, it's kind of sad, but this wedding will always, to me, just be the most beautiful.
That's what I want.
So
even in a sad way.
I hadn't met the bride before. It was a destination wedding. They had all come in from Baltimore. And so the morning of, I arrive and I knock on the bridal suite to introduce myself, and the bride's mother opens the door and she looks to the bride and she says, "Crystal's here, I'm gonna talk to her." So immediately I'm like, am I getting fired before I even started? The groom's mother, who was scheduled for hair and makeup, had breakfast with everybody, went upstairs to lay down for a little bit. She was going to come later. She passed away. And the bride wanted to go back to the hotel, obviously, to be with her groom. I contacted all of the vendors, and I was like, listen, what can we do for them? And so we had all discussed we were going to all pitch in and pay for the food, because the food's already prepped, right? Donate it to a shelter, so that way we could give them another wedding date. So we discussed it with the bride, and she was like, well, all of our guests came in from out of state and they all paid for their accommodations, and there's just no way that we can ask them to pay for that twice. So the wedding still went on, and the energy is obviously different, and you can't say half of the things you usually say, like, oh, have a great wedding day or anything like that. But it was beautiful how all of the vendors immediately were like, we will put our money on this to make it right for them. We will offer them a second date, no extra charge. And so the bride, on their 1-year anniversary, ended up pregnant, and she came back to the same venue. She had hair and makeup done, and they had their maternity shoot there, and it was all complimentary from all of the vendors, just so that we had a chance to really celebrate them.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was looking for, something that just stuck out to you in the wedding industry. Right. I hate even asking this now, but after a story like that, it's like, what was your worst story?
There's so many.
I know. Pick two.
All right, we're gonna pick two. So the one that probably made me cry for like 5 hours. So I had a bride come in and for her preview, and she asked for a natural. Natural means something different to everybody who speaks it. So I gave her a natural look. The biggest thing when it comes to your vendors is make sure you can communicate. You want to know that you can make changes and everything. So she didn't communicate that. The wedding day came. She never had any feedback from the trial. Wedding day came. She wasn't there. We're doing everybody. We finish everybody, and I'm still waiting for the bride. Oh, she went to a salon. She took her mother to a salon, and they're running late. She says, go ahead. And I said, I'm not leaving. She contracted me. I'm not leaving.
Oh, I see where this is going now.
So I ended up sticking around, and I probably shouldn't have, because it was, I think, 2 hours past when I was supposed to be finished, but I wasn't going to leave a bride high and dry on her wedding day. Well, she came in, and she had full glam. She had a wing eyeliner, sharp as a tack. She had all the layers. And I mean, it was beautiful, but completely not what natural was.
That's not what you asked for.
It was something very simple. She could have communicated with me like, hey, I want more. I meant natural tones or neutral tones. I didn't want purples or blues, which I would never whip out on a wedding day. But it was horrifying. And I think it was a learning lesson for me. This is when I really started to stress we need to be able to communicate what natural means to you versus what natural means to me, and find the common ground. Yeah.
So once you were going on with the story, and she was like, oh, they just said you can go, and I kind of got an idea of that's where it was going.
Yeah.
Did you ever get any feedback that, you just kind of figured it out? And you saw her, obviously?
Yeah, when she came in.
Yeah.
It was
she didn't say
contour.
She didn't say anything like, I'm sorry, or...
No. And that happens a lot, too. We have brides, like bridal parties, who will show up an hour late after they were supposed to start. And I'll be like, oh, was it a stressful morning? No, everything's fine. Not an apology that, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Let's talk about the wedding industry right now. And there's a time coordination that happens on a photographer's point of view and a DJ's point of view prior to the wedding. So I will call up my clients 1 month before the wedding, because by then they've got itineraries set, travel's going to be set, what time we're leaving for here, and everything else like that. So I know when I come in and going to do hair and makeup, I'm starting at X time, and I'm working till this time, so we got to be ready for the first look at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I know hair and makeup has to be done by at least 1 o'clock, so we can get into the dress. That gives us an hour to get into the dress. Sometimes I'm finding the hair and makeup is being done first thing in the morning at like 9:30, okay? On your end, you let them know we have to start by this time, because we have to end by this time. Do you run into any, not problems or issues, but people not showing up and or they're running late and they're like, because what happens, what guests hear is
Hair
they
and
don't,
makeup ran late.
hair, that's what they hear.
Yes.
They hear hair and makeup went late, photographer went late. But what they don't hear is
The why.
the bride was 1 hour late from starting this, or the maids of honor ran to the store and were gone and were not there to do this. So tell me a little bit about the importance of, on your end, brides and grooms, or actually brides, when we say X time to X time, you have to be there. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we reach out 2 months before to do a timeline.
Okay.
Sometimes brides want to do it earlier, and we have come across they'll do it earlier. They sign off, so I make them sign something that says that the timeline is approved by them. I have them look it over with their photographer just to make sure that when they think that they should be getting dressed and when the photographer thinks they should be getting dressed should be lined up, right? But you know, in some venues, the venues that we work at a lot, we'll even send it to their coordinator so that everybody's on the same page. We 100% run into issues all of the time. Recently, I made the mistake of saying to the venue coordinator, "Oh, we're doing great on time. We're actually ahead of schedule." Well, one girl had opted to do her own makeup, and so when it was time for her hair slot, she wasn't done. So we're like, "We'll just take her at the end. We're doing great."
So you adjusted.
Yes,
Okay. But
the venue coordinator then goes and tells the photographers they're running ahead of the schedule. So why don't we start doing the pajama pictures early? And so by the time, so the photographers come in and they're like, "All right, we're going to do the pajama photos." And we had just started on the girl that we had let finish her makeup. So then the photographers made us take her out of the chair, and she's now in these photos when she doesn't have full hair done. And so it does, I think sometimes people get a little too excited if we're ahead of schedule and they mess up the flow. I do, knowing how it is the morning of, I always do build in some incidental time into the timeline.
Smart. That's experience.
I try, because I know if we're running even 5 minutes late, then the next step is going to be 5 minutes late and it's going to steamroll. But there are some times where, I'll have 15 minutes to do a full face because the person showed up extremely late. And we have in our contract a late fee. If you're more than 20 minutes late, there's a $50 fee because we're standing around now not doing anything.
Interesting. Good for you. Good for you.
There's also,
Have you ever had to enforce that?
I do it for my protection, but I've tried. No, I'm too much of a people pleaser.
It's there to say, and I think that's smart on your end.
But
I think that's smart to say, hey, by the way, if there's a $50 fee for anybody that's running late and it causes us to be late, you've never enforced it.
I've never. Yeah. I mean, I should have many a times.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it does it just so that people know I do run a business. This
Yes.
isn't a hobby.
100%. 100%.
And we're not miracle workers,
Yep.
And so, we had recently a bride 4 months before her wedding. She signed off on the timeline. She wanted it done, whatever. Well, from when we did that until her wedding day, she actually added in a first look. And the first look wasn't something she had planned on doing when she signed off on the timeline. The day before, luckily, I'm very well, I'm closer with the photographer. So the photographer sent out their timeline. And I noticed on their timeline that their photos ran 2 hours before we were supposed to be done. And I'm so glad that I opened that, right? Because I made a split decision. If we started earlier, first of all, this is a lot of stress for the bride the day before. I don't want to be that stressful. Number two, I knew that the venue, because I worked there a lot, had an early fee if we had to start earlier. So luckily, I was able to pull on 2 more people to help get this wedding done on time. But she, I think, just didn't communicate those changes with me, even though, we talked numerous times in that window.
Wow.
But it's just being very aware of the emails, opening them up and paying attention.
Yeah, and I feel like I agree with you. Sometimes I don't find out until 1 month before the wedding that all of a sudden they changed their mind and they want to do a first look, and now they want to do all of their formal pictures before the ceremony. Yes. I forget that, oh my God, that pushes hair and makeup up even further. than what the normal timeline would be. There's so many facets to a wedding timeline when it comes to that, because it's not just one person being affected, it's every person on the timeline that is affected. And when people are late starting their hair and makeup, that runs into the first look gets delayed.
Yeah.
The first look gets delayed, and then all of a sudden you've got a smaller window. So if this wedding starts at 2 o'clock and you're supposed to do your first look at 1, and we can't get the first look done until 1:45, now you've got 15 minutes to clean your face, fix the mascara, get settled, hit the bathroom, grab a drink if you need it, and get up to the thing. So now, if you run 15 minutes late for the ceremony to start, that 15 minutes late, that makes everything else behind that off. And then the next person, so now that still goes for 1 hour. So now you're starting 15 minutes later. And then that starts. But you can never adjust along the way is the food. Right. If the food is at X time, you can't slow that food down. Exactly. You can't speed that food up. Exactly. So if you're running late and the food's supposed to be ready for 6 and you're running late and you don't get everything done till 6:30, your food could be overcooked.
Exactly.
People don't realize that.
Effect.
It really is. It really is. But I feel like this is where professionals in the industry really set the tone for professionalism, because there's lots of people starting to do hair and makeup now. There's lots of people starting to do photography now, but they don't have the experience with working a wedding flow.
Right.
And Tony and I talk about this so much time. The wedding flow has everything to do with how your day is run. Mm-hmm. And if you have inexperienced people, and I'm not saying you shouldn't hire inexperienced people, if that's your budget, I get that. Right. But there's a flow about a day, not just somebody could take a good picture, not somebody could just do hair and makeup good. There's a flow to the day that one person can mess up the next 5 people after that. Yeah. Wow. That's really important. And the fact that you have that in your contract to do that, I feel like shows the brides that you need to, that's what I tell all my wedding brides, bride and grooms, I was like, you're responsible for getting your people there. Yeah. You send that mass text out, you guys got to be there at X time. That's it. Unless there's an accident, unless there's a flat tire, you're there at the X time. That's it.
We also put in our, we have a prep sheet that we send out to everybody in the bridal party. So, we have everything that we need to get started, inspo pictures, this, that, and the other. But one of the things says that if they're more than 15 minutes late, then we skip over them, move on to the next person. And if there's time at the end, then we will put you in there. But at the end of the day, if the bride needs to get dressed, we're going to make sure she's getting dressed at that time.
Bride's priority.
Period.
Yeah.
And we've had experiences where a maid of honor who was supposed to be helped setting up showed up 4 hours late, and then we rushed to get her done. Midway through her makeup, oh my goodness, I forgot to take a shower. Are you kidding me? She gets up to take a shower. And I looked at the bride and I was like, it was the day of my daughter, I'll never forget. It was her 9th birthday party, too. And I made the mistake, and now I know never plan anything personal on somebody's wedding day for later on in the day, just in case. But we were supposed to be done for 12:30. Because the maid of honor wasn't there, I ended up setting up the ceremony site where she was supposed to be setting up so that the bride could sit in the hair chair. And we sat around and waited because, again, I just feel this guilt of, I know it was their fault, but still, you never know. So, and she did. She showed up, I almost saw a fist fight that day. The bride was so done with her.
Let me tell you, this is what separates you from somebody else. There's a professional level about you and what you do that, you know what, I know it's not my fault. I'm just going to do it anyways. Yeah. Most people wouldn't have done that.
I think that's why I've made it 20 years.
I agree 100%.
A lot of people, to them, this is their living. To the brides, this is their one day. Granted, this year I have 4 of my past brides who got divorced and are getting remarried, but they still came back to me.
That's
right?
awesome.
So that says something. But
yeah, that does say something. You're right.
We do have to treat it like a business and have boundaries, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind and be mindful that this is the bride's one day.
One day.
And so even though you do 6 of these a month or however many, this is a one-time thing, and she's planned for it forever. So you have to be a little bit flexible and roll with the punches, and or else you're not going to be remembered. It's
good point.
And if you cause chaos because something happened out of sorts, if you get panicked, then everybody around you is going to panic.
They see
that vibe is going to stay.
Yeah. Worst part for you about doing hair and makeup? What's the one thing that you dread the most on a hair and makeup day?
We are the whipping posts. Do you remember the book The Whipping Boy?
No.
Okay, so the book The Whipping Boy, I read it when I was a kid, and it was one of my favorites. And back when there were princes, they would have basically a servant's child. If the prince got in trouble, the whippings would go to the servant's child. He was the official whipping boy. No, I mean the prince obviously learned no lessons from that,
right.
But we get all of the feelings, all of the emotion. We did a trial for Mother of the Bride, and the day of, we did it exactly the same, and she was just panicked, and it had nothing to do with us. It was her husband had passed away recently, and she was doing everything without her husband, and it was those emotions, but we were the ones there.
Yeah.
And so we took that. We get the nerves,
you
the
get
second
the brunt
guessing.
of it almost.
Yeah. You have a lot of nervous energy. So, when the bride is sitting down, all of her, the people around her get the zoomies, I call it, and they will, 2 more hours before you're married. And you can just see the nerves take over. People constantly asking, do you need something? Do you want something? The bride may have a fallen out with somebody, and so we have to keep them separated while doing hair and makeup so she's not stuck next to that person. And there's so many different things, and we take a lot of it because it's not the bride being a diva or a bridezilla. It's just the nerves.
The nerves.
And we're just there. Sometimes we
the
get
best part about doing hair and makeup on a wedding day?
You're part of memories. Forever. If you do it right, I'm sure there have been brides that didn't love us or whatever, but my goal is to never I don't want a bride to ever look back and say, I hated my hair and makeup, it was the makeup artist's fault, and that's why I don't do trendy things. I stay away from trends because in 5 years, you're going to look back at those pictures. Do you want to look back at those pictures and think like we do when we look back at bridal pictures from the 80s? Or do you want to be like, I have no regrets? And so I always talk people out of trends and be who you are. I want everyone to throw out that, well, you need more for pictures. You need to be comfortable and feel like yourself.
That just took my next question then.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have to, I feel like every bride's face is different.
Yes.
Do you come in it if they want to do, this is what I was thinking, and in your gut, face, I hate using those words, but it won't look good on you.
Yeah.
Do you find a way to try and show them that it doesn't look good or it wouldn't look good? Or explain to me if somebody came to you that wanted to look, that didn't, you felt in your gut and in your spirit, it wouldn't look good on them. Explain to me.
Well, it depends.
How would you approach it?
It depends on the bride. Sometimes I am afraid to speak up because I feel like, the bride has the personality that she would bite me if I didn't give her what she wanted. Okay. And sometimes, I know I'm gonna do this, but I know she's gonna want to change it. Okay. And that happens. Okay. And then there are brides who are a little bit more unsure, uncertain. Okay. And but they're approachable. So I'm able to walk them through, okay, so this is what I see that you like. This is the common ground in all of these pictures, but let's adjust this, this, and this, and this to work with your features. So.
That's a great point. That's what I meant by somebody's face. I didn't mean it as an insult.
Right, no.
I just meant it as a facial contour that certain things look better on somebody. Right. And this is, again, where experience comes in. Right. You are a business owner, though, and you do want to make your bride happy. So if that's what the bride wants, you're going to do that and you're going to show them, well, can we tweak it just a little bit or adjust a little bit? Or do you feel like, you mentioned purple before. Do you feel like a lot of brides are not doing colored eyeshadow on purpose? Or do you feel like, is that a trend almost?
It is.
I don't see it very often.
When I
like the purples and the greens and things like that
Right.
that are very, very colorful.
When I first started off, I was young and I was into trends myself. And so we did. You know, you went through all these different eras. I call it the Jaclyn Hill Jeffree Star era, where everybody was watching them on YouTube and all it was make your eyes look like the sunrise and all these bold colors. I don't keep them in my kit for my bridal kits unless it's something that the bride stresses. There's a theme. Sometimes there's themes.
Good point. That you just took a great point. Great point. If there's a theme to the day.
Yeah, so sometimes they have a specific vision. I had a bride who had a magenta corset, turquoise full skirt, and that's what she was getting married in. Her hair was half and half, and she wanted the eyes to be turquoise and the lips to be magenta. And I told her I thought it would be too much, but if that's what she really wanted, and she said that's what she wanted, and I did it.
Yeah.
But I don't carry them in my kit. And I don't put...
So that's like a special request then. That's like a certain, a theme of some sort.
Right. I'll keep universal colors for eyeliner because there are some people, a lot of mothers and grandmothers who come from the blue eyeshadow era and they're still stuck on that. And instead of doing blue eyeshadow, I will use a blue eyeliner so that they still feel like they have that color because you don't want to steer too far out of their normal. But at the same time, I'm not putting blue eyeshadow on.
I want to talk about mothers and grandmothers. So when they sit down for hair and makeup with you guys also, do you feel like, how do they come? Do they say like, I don't know what to do, or do they kind of give you recommendations, or do they let you do what you want to do?
They are the scariest of all of my clients.
Okay, that was my next question.
They're not that they're mean, although some have been.
Because we're talking about mothers and grandmothers.
Yes.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: they have been doing their own thing for so long. So they're so used to it.
Yeah.
One of the biggest questions that I ask when I'm going into it is, what do you normally do on a daily basis? Because if they do eyeliner top and bottom, then you want to make sure to include it.
Okay.
Even if it's your own way.
Got it.
Because if they look in the mirror and they don't have eyeliner on the bottom, they're going to feel different. And it's also very hard for them to get used to seeing themselves out of the norm.
Okay.
Sometimes they're just straight up mean. I had a mother of the groom, and she wanted full glam. Well, full glam is a lot of makeup, and she didn't have the best skin. You could tell she was still tanning out in the sun with baby oil. She partied a little hard, and her skin reflected that. So I explained to her, all of these layers are going to look cakey.
Cakey.
Cakey. You put layers on.
I understand that completely.
Yeah.
I would have never heard of that. That's a great point.
Yeah.
You don't want your makeup to look cakey
Correct.
on your wedding. Oh, I like that.
But
okay, go ahead.
she wanted the full glam. And so I did the full glam. And the mother of the bride wanted a very natural light look. She loved it. I go into the bathroom and the mother of the groom didn't know I was in the stall, and she comes to the sink and she's talking to the mother of the bride, and she's like, well, now I know what I would look like dead. It is what you wanted. I asked you 2 times when you looked in the mirror if you wanted anything changed.
Wow.
Her inspo picture, and like I had explained to her, it was a 23-year-old girl.
Oh my
It was perfectly smooth skin.
Oh,
and you didn't have that. If you want a full glam look, then you better take care of your skin leading up to the day.
That's like not even comparing apples to apples. That's like, she should have found an older woman, forgive me for saying it that way, that had makeup the way that she wanted to. Yeah,
but it's also the pictures that are out there. People are editing their photos.
Oh, good point.
So they're not showing the fine lines and the wrinkles and what really happens.
Great point. A lot of people are adding filters to their pictures.
Yes.
And I had one, I forgot who it was. I don't even remember. And I had one makeup person reach out to me and say, hey, Ron, you really should go look at this person's pictures on their Facebook, because we didn't do their hair and makeup that way, and your dress looks good, everything else looks good, but their face looks like almost like plastic, and it looks almost like the makeup was all done by filters, and whatever they did in their phone made them look not even like. And what it does is she goes, this reflects your pictures.
Yes.
It doesn't just. So
Yes.
she was like the filters thing, and
I think that was me.
I think it was you,
I think that was me.
I think it was you. I think it was you, and I remembered it was you.
It was
It was
me.
you, and I wasn't
That's
sure
so
exactly.
funny.
And, you were like, "Hey, Ron."
She
you might
post
want
edited those so much
Yes.
that she didn't even have nostrils.
It was you.
Yes,
it was you,
was.
and I remember that now.
Yep.
And you reached out to me in a genuine concern, like, this does not look like a good representation of your work
Yes.
because of this.
Yes.
And I did not remember that story until right now.
And it wasn't
was-
even your editing.
No.
It was her post, and
Yep.
and she still does she
Yep.
still edits her face the same way.
Yeah.
She has no nostrils.
Yeah.
She's just like one big blurred.
And it's not a true representation. And I feel like this is where, if a bride is doing that 5 years before her wedding and she's doing that filter thing to make that, now she comes to you and says, "Hey, Crystal, this is how I want to look," in more layers looks cakey.
Right.
And I agree with you, and I understand that completely.
Right.
And I can tell when somebody has too much makeup on.
Yes.
And all I can do is just take the pictures the best that I can, and this is what you wanted, this is what you're going to get. But yeah, that's an interesting story. Is when you over makeup yourself, it really is a bad reflection of the whole rest of the day. It makes everything else look good.
And I mean, it's, if I will do full makeup on myself because I am old. So it's who I was, right? So I do it, but I realize that there going to be wrinkles, and there's the natural texture.
Correct.
The face moves a lot.
Correct.
So you have to just know that expectation. If you want lots of layers, just know the expectation is. But I think we're in the age now where we can control how we look with selfies.
Yes.
We can control every aspect, so much so that it blurs reality.
Yeah.
And I had one time an older bride. She was over 50, and she brought in her inspiration picture was, how filter on Facebook you can put your picture in and it'll generate all of these okay.
Yeah.
Well, it had generated her as a whimsical fairy. And she brought the whimsical fairy in. And she's like, "This is what I want for my wedding day." And I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Obviously, I did it, and we ended up going a completely different direction. She finally listened to me for the day of the wedding. But I just think that we lose touch with reality
100%.
because we see this magical world.
Yeah. And I do agree with you. There is a level, I'm older.
Yeah.
Our bodies are only getting older.
Mm-hmm.
Skin does how it was treated.
Yeah.
If it's untreated as you're younger, you end up with, issues as you get older. I understand that.
Yeah.
But the wedding day is the one day that the bride wants to look the best.
Right.
I get that.
Right.
You should start treating your skin better 5 years later, because now that you're 52, 53, 54, you're like, "Oh my God, I wish I didn't stay out in the sun so much," or "I wish I didn't do this so much." There's no going back and treating your skin any better in the future. That's why I feel like the natural look is like the best way to have somebody look, and the way to contour the face is the best way to do it. If somebody is allergic to a certain kind of makeup, is there any hyperallergenic makeup that that people can use?
So a lot of people don't know this, but I actually have a dermatologist on my payroll. I will,
Really?
whenever I get a new, so I have liability insurance, but I never want to have to use it.
Yeah.
So I, years ago.
Which would protect you from an allergic reaction.
Correct.
Do you ask ahead of time if people?
I do.
I'm assuming that would be like a very important question.
Yes,
Do you have any allergies?
And if it's a new allergy that we have no experience with, then I go to my dermatologist.
Wow.
The thing is,
That's professionalism. That's professionalism.
The thing is that there are sometimes situations where I won't touch the person. One of the situations is if they insist on using their own makeup. I will do it if they come in for a preview, because my kit I know.
Good point.
And I know what works best for everybody.
Yeah.
When somebody comes in with their makeup, Well, first of all, if I apply it the day of without a preview, I'm not experienced. I don't know if a little goes a long way or if you need to build up. And there's too much question, and the day of is not the time to pull these questions.
Not the time.
Number two, though, a lot of makeup artists aren't familiar with cross-contamination. That is a professional makeup artist. It's their number one pet peeve. You'll watch videos, and in the video, you'll see somebody working right out of the mascara tube, right from the lip tube. And maybe it belongs to the person they're working on, but that should also be something specified in the video that you're posting. Like this is, because cross-contamination, more makeup artists really started to pay attention during COVID, but this was, it's a forever
It's
thing.
been there for,
It's been there forever.
Okay.
And so when you're using somebody's makeup, you don't know if that person let somebody else use their mascara. You don't know.
Great point.
I don't want to put that mascara on you and then you have a sty and it somehow is my fault. But a lot of people will come to me and be like, I have very sensitive skin. I want you to use my makeup kit. And their makeup kit has more chemicals than what I have in my kit. It's just their...
But they didn't know that.
They
wouldn't know what's in a professional kit, would they?
No, but what I think it is it's their comfy, it's their blankie.
Got it.
This is what I used, and so it's what's in there. So I refuse to touch anybody else's makeup unless we do a preview before. I have my insurance agency draft up a separate form, an agreement. I speak to the dermatologist, but
and this is only in regards to somebody asking you to use their makeup.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I won't do it if they come. And a lot of moms will do that because, again, it goes back to they're so comfortable with what they've been doing over and over. Yep. But when they come to me with, let's say, Clinique is a very common, I have sensitive skin and it's all Clinique. Clinique has more chemicals than most of the stuff in my kit.
Wow.
But
for them, they feel like I've been using it so long, I've never had a reaction to it. I'm going to keep using that. So there's a comfort in that, a blankie mentality. So I get that. Yeah. I get that. But yeah, interesting to have a dermatologist that's at your fingertips to just say, hey, I'm running into this. Will this be an issue?
She charges me, but
but that protects you. Yeah. That protects you. Having a liability clause in case. I would have never thought about a liability clause when it comes to hair and makeup, but now that I'm thinking about it, an allergic reaction to somebody's face and or eyes. But you must ask people ahead of time, do you have any known allergies that we know about?
Right. Sensitivities, fragrance sensitivities, we ask them if they feel like their face gets oily. We ask them, we thoroughly ask them, but
thoroughly,
allergies,
I like that. Again, professionalism.
Yeah, but in the initial contract, the bride will see that it does ask about allergies, so she does have to run through everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
And get those, any allergies up front so that we can specify it on their timeline. Some people have allergy, like sensitivities to fragrance. We have not found hair products yet that are not heavily fragranced that are effective.
Okay.
So we'll then be like, okay, well, we'll do your hair first so you're not in a room full of other people's products and you can wear a mask. And then for your makeup, I can leave the room, go into your own separate room. So we do our best to accommodate everybody. Because everybody deserves to feel special.
Yeah. But you can't accommodate.
Yes.
That's professionalism.
We do our best.
Yeah. I could not imagine somebody being in the industry for hair and makeup in going to that level that's only been doing it for 5 years. I can't see them having the understanding of cross-contamination, knowing the difference of what looks cakey, what looks natural, having a dermatologist that you can call and figure out what allergies and what things could be cross-contamination, anything else like that. This is what professionalism is all about. There's an experience that comes along with that.
Yeah.
Hey, she's my friend, she's gonna do my hair and makeup, and you end up with an allergic reaction on your wedding day because she bought a new mascara that she never used for you before. Let's try this. A new lip balm, a new lip thing.
Even using that same one mascara on everybody. Once you put that wand on someone's lashes and then put it back in the tube, there's moisture. You're now spreading those little mites that are on your lashes, the lip on everyone's lashes.
I would have never thought of that.
Lip products. If you have anything.
I see this all the time. Everybody's sharing everything.
Yeah. And even makeup brushes, anything creamy I have palettes, so like, stainless steel palette that I put all my creams on. So if I double dip, it's not going into the cream products, it's going on the palette. I also have one for my hand. So because a lot of people will work off the back of their hand. I'm not saying people are disgusting, but you don't know if you wiped, the back of your nose. You don't know.
Oh,
So
yeah, good point.
there's so much room for error.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time.
Yeah.
I've worked with seasoned makeup artists who will use the same makeup brushes on everybody. On everybody. There's no sanitation in between. And I have very strict rules for my girls. You have a clean set of makeup brushes for every face. And it also goes down to...
So if they come in with 5 people that need makeup,
you have 5 brush
five
sets.
separate brushes?
5 separate brush sets for each person.
Wow. Professionalism. I cannot emphasize that enough.
It's the same thing with, you hear a lot about makeup and hair people who can't accommodate all skin tones. And I feel very strongly that you should, especially if you're doing bridal parties. There are women of color and different backgrounds and different hair textures. And
great point.
While, okay, you may not get booked to do that service for, you may not be great at that makeup or whatever, you have to train. Your kit has to accommodate every skin tone that could possibly, every situation that could possibly. My girls, they might do 2 or 3 wig installs for a person in a bridal party, but they'll keep wig glue in their kits 24/7 just in case.
Just in case.
You have to be able to accommodate everybody. You hear a lot, even, celebrities talking about, I had my makeup done, I looked ashy, it didn't match me. You have to be able to be confident in all skin tones and in all hair textures.
All right. That's a mouthful. What else do you want to talk about hair and makeup wise, business wise?
Business. One of the things that is huge for me is, so it's funny because I've been doing this for so long and I am, we're pretty busy. I do over 70 weddings a year plus my celebrities and everything during the week and my shoots during the week. But the biggest thing that helped me get to where I am isn't social media. Social media scares me. And I hate being on social media if we're honest, but I do a lot of, so at the end of the year, I live off my tips. Everything that my business and that I make goes back into the community. There's 5 nonprofits that I work very closely to, and they take really good care of me. Billie Jean King, when I did her makeup, that was a huge experience, and it was all because a lady that was on the board of one of the nonprofits I work with, because of the work that I do, she recommended me. And that opened the doors for so many different opportunities after her. But don't just think, all right, I'm a makeup artist and I want to book brides, so I have to be specific to the wedding industry.
Good point.
Get out there in the community and help out where you love to help out.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it comes back to you. Good things happen to good people.
100%. Paying it forward mentality and being nice and kind to people also, I feel like goes a long way also.
Community over competition, for sure.
100%, 100%. And that whole, going back to the thing we originally talked about, being an introvert, not being an introvert, community, you can't be a Lone Ranger. I feel like anybody that's trying to do a business of some sort with a Lone Ranger mentality without...
They hit a wall.
They do. And if you plateau, you're not going to grow any bigger than, you can only get so far. You can only get so far.
With clicking up with certain vendors. I mean, I think we see that a lot in our community. Yeah. There's the OGs, so when we get together, we're like, hey. Yeah. And we kind of end up staying in one corner with our OGs instead of getting out. You have to branch out. And then another thing would be, for anybody who wants to do this, any kind of business themselves, is to realize, it's not easy. You're thinking about business 24/7. I mean, it's hard to shut off. When different things are happening in the world, you might be slower at booking, and you're worried about, why am I not getting the bookings? And so I think, just knowing that it's a sacrifice when you're a business owner. Yeah. And then also always trade on your craft. Yeah. Always. If you're doing the same thing that you were doing 4 years ago, it's probably not good anymore.
Great point.
I mean, there's 100 different, like photography, there's 100 different ways to get one shot. But if you're still using the same way that you did 5 years ago, it's probably not the way anymore. And you end up then kind of aging out, I guess you can say.
And staying stagnant. Yeah. I feel like there is an evolution to every part of business. That what started working once doesn't mean it's going to get you to everywhere along the way.
Right.
Very good point. What else you want to talk about? That was a good point about business. Really appreciate that. Wedding industry wise, hair and makeup wise, where can they find you on social media?
I'm everywhere.
Yeah. What's your handle on Instagram? I feel like that's
Crystal
probably
Vasquez and Company, 2 Z's.
Okay. Any underscores in there? I'll search it and I'll put it down in the description. Okay, perfect. All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
No.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Thank you. That was not what I expected. I think like hair and makeup, how hard can that be? To have a dermatologist on your payroll that you've got concerns for liability and concerns for cross-contamination, I would have never even have thought of that. And this is the difference in why I bring this to the attention of the viewers is there's a difference with professionals. And I cannot emphasize how much professionalism Crystal and her team has. And when I get my list and it's like, oh, Crystal's going to be at this wedding, there's an excitement about me because I know the hair and makeup's going to be on point. I know everything's going to be done great. We come in and we walk over, we give each other a hug, and it's good to see you. And there's a camaraderie and a friendship that happens when she gets around other vendors that she works with frequently and stuff like that. So I cannot emphasize enough the professionalism and the difference in paying for the professionalism, and there's a mentality of you get what you pay for, and you want to not look at it that way, but there's a point of looking at it as like, you know what, this is your one day. This is your one day. You want to get it done right. So hire professionals when it comes to that. So I want to thank Crystal talking about her team and her business and where she came from and where she's going. Do you see any trends happening? And I know you don't follow trends, so it's a very difficult question, but hair and makeup wise, do you see anything? Or do you think it's going to stay the way that it is?
We're seeing a lot more of the 90s. The Pamela Anderson looks coming back.
Really?
The good thing is I watch the trends out in California, and then we can expect to see them within 2 years from here. We're the last ones to get the trends.
So almost like the big hair-ish style? Yeah, really?
Yeah.
All right.
But you'll regret it afterwards. It's beautiful, but you'll regret it.
Good point. Good point. All right. Thank you guys for coming back to the channel. All of Crystal & Company's information is going to be down below. Follow her on our Instagram. Follow her on our information. If you're a bride on the fence with looking for hair and makeup and you're on the fence between, something and something, take the tips that she had gotten in there, looking into the history of the people that you want to hire. Look at their credentials, look at their social media, ask them if they got insurance. You should not have any vendor working on your day that does not have professional insurance for their business that protects them and it protects you. So thank you guys for coming back to the channel. Remember to hit that like button and that subscribe button. Remember to smile more because it sure does hurt less. Peace.